I've said this a million times. An economy that does not produce anything tangible, anything physical, right, is a shit economy. Just take my word. We used to manufacture stuff. And here's the graph, but then I'll go with the left side first. The US economy is now almost entirely driven by services sector. I think this number is low, but then they're doing a percentage of GDP. I think our GDP is about 80% by service economy. Service economy meaning, nothing tangible manufactured. All the shit you guys buy on the internet, all the services, all that stuff that that the GDP basically in the US as of last year was 27.5 trillion, 28 trillion with a T. Our debt was at 35 trillion, so we're running at 120% of GDP now. Our interest rate on the debt is at 3.2%, which is at an all-time high because we're paying $1 trillion a year in interest only, just on the floated money that we have out there around the globe on that 35 trillion, right? Trillion a year. Could we use that trillion a year to do some good in the country? Help people who want to manufacture shit in the US? Of course not. Why would we do that? We just pay IOUs up our what. So US economy is almost entirely driven by the services sector. The services industry now accounts for 72% of US GDP, up from 60, okay? By comparison, in the 50s, the good old 50s, when the US was the US, services reflected just 47% of the economy. Obviously, the internet came around, all the social media stuff, all that stuff has changed. Advertising changed, the way people sell stuff has changed, brick and mortar died. Look, all these things, right? But the key is manufacturing. We used to manufacture cars. We used to manufacture refrigerators. We used to manufacture TVs. We used to manufacture all that stuff. Where'd that go? Export those jobs to China. Awesome. Wonderful. By comparison, in the 50s, services reflected 47%. On the other hand, the manufacturing sector share in the US GDP has declined from 27% in 1950s to 10% currently. Yeah, I think these numbers are pretty goddamn accurate. So meanwhile, the ISM manufacturing PMI index has shrunk 20 of the last 21 months. Of course, we're not going in a recession. Everything is fine. Government says everything is fine. Don't worry about it. I mean, we're all good. And here's the chart that, picture's worth 1,000 words. Look at that blue line. You know what the blue line is? The blue line is the services economy, part of the GDP. So we're at 72%. This goes back to 1950 for people who cannot see, but I'm sure you'll see, later, or if you zoom in or whatever. So we went from, you guys are ready? In 1950s, services part of the economy was literally 7%. See, you guys see the lower left-hand corner of the chart? 5-ish, a little bit up over 5, about 6-7%. Now we're at 72%. Our GDP, whatever it was those days, because we were borrowing and putting the money on fire, we were manufacturing things. We were building things. We were the best, stuff on the planet. But it was close to 30% of GDP in the 1950s, and now we're down to 50%. We're still manufacturing stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying nothing is being manufactured, right? But then even that part has gone into its own recessionary periods because it's so expensive to start a business and build some stuff in this country now, right? From labor to rents to insurances to everything else, because you have to factor all these in. So what do you guys think is going to happen if we go in a recession, right? What happens to a service-based economy where 80% of the GDP is servicing, right, sector? What happens to the economy when the service industry slows down? Meaning people don't go out to eat as much, people don't go to the movies as much, and people, they cut their discretionary spending. What do you think is going to happen because we don't manufacture anything, right? There's no net. We're flying without a net, right? That's why every time we get in a recession, the shit hits the fan. And add to that all the borrowed money, everybody living on, plastic, right? Look, man, this is the writing on the wall. I'm presenting you guys all these facts. You agree, you don't agree, but talk about it. And then put your household in order if you think you're here.